Konnichiwa Mina. After some time away, here it is, week 7 of the 2018 DCFL season. As I was going to do this video last night, but one of my progressive buddies texted me all night pretty much, so I got myself, prevent me from doing it. So here we go. As we take a look at the standings after week 6, still the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions, the only team undefeated as they lead the conference, with the Seattle Tenyo number 2, the Jacksonville Scouts number 3, and the Chicago Staleys at number 4. But of course, outside of Indianapolis and Seattle, we have a 5-way tie at 3-3 with a whole bunch of teams. So those last 2 playoff spots are really up for grabs this week. And now we take a look at the schedule for week 7 as we get things started with my Baltimore Charm visiting the winless Oakland Pillagers. Then the Charlotte Bobcats visiting the Jacksonville Scouts. One of the best offense and defense is going to be against here. That'll be interesting. Then the Pittsburgh Power against the Chicago Staleys. And then a huge matchup with the number 1 seed on the line as the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions go into Seattle to face the Tenyo. That's going to be big. And finally, the New York Gangsters face off the Phoenix Devils in a matchup with major playoff implications right now. So we start off the week with the Baltimore Charm visiting the Oakland Pillagers. The Charm lost last week to Seattle after winning 3 in a row, which sucked for me. And the Oakland Pillagers still have yet to get a win themselves. Will that be, unfortunately for me, the possibility this week? And the Charm would get the victory 21-13 in a defensive struggle as, oh my god, the Pillagers forced 4 turnovers on my Charm. But luckily, we still managed to pull off the victory. Man, it was really close despite us putting over almost 450 yards of offense. We barely pulled off the victory. But hey, we've won now 4 of our last 5, so that's pretty good, as we are now back in the 3rd seed in the playoff standings, and as the Pillagers still remain winless. So after that, we go down to Jacksonville as the Jacksonville Scouts host the Charlotte Bobcats. The Scouts now won 2 in a row, got back to 500, and they've looked dominant in all their victories. That's going to help them out, as the Bobcats, although 2-4, they're still hanging in there as one of the best defenses in the league, as this is going to be a battle between one of the best offenses and defense. The Scouts would destroy the Bobcats 38-17 in an offensive shootout in terms of yards. The Scouts had over 450 yards of offense. The Bobcats had over 375. They were putting up a whole bunch of yards, as the Bobcats could not stop the Scouts at all, as now they're 4-3, finally got over 500 after their terrible 1-3 start, as they are also themselves in the playoff bracket now too, as the Bobcats fall off to 2-5. Then we go up to Chicago as the Chicago Staleys host the Pittsburgh Power, as the Staleys finally stopped their bleeding last week, ending their 3-game losing streak to get back to 500, as the Power continue. They won 2 in a row, and then they lost 1 last week. They're still trying to catch up with everyone in the playoff bracket. And the Pittsburgh Power would dominate as they win 45-20. And funny enough, the Staleys actually had more offensive yards, but 3 interceptions, with I think all of them going back to points afterwards. That really stings. As a huge victory for Pittsburgh, as they now won 3 of their last 4, as the Staleys continue to struggle, losing 4 of their last 5. Oh my god. So much for being the best team in the league on paper. And then we get to the huge showdown of the week, as the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions, still the only undefeated team remaining, go into Seattle to face the Seattle Tenyo, as these 2 are the top 2 teams in the league, and whoever wins this game is going to have the number 1 seed at the end of the week. So who would pull off the win in this incredible showdown? And the Tenyo would do it, as they win 24-20 in a game that the lead changed every single time, all the way up to the 4th quarter. The Rapid Stallions had to pull off a comeback, but just were stalled at midfield, as the Tenyo, they couldn't stop them on the defense this time around. This was an offensive game, but they did stop them on 3rd down, as they were 3-12 on 3rd down, and they held the possession for 60% of the game, so they did very good clock management to hold down that very potent Indianapolis offense. And with that victory, Seattle now leads the division at 6-1 with the tiebreaker for right now. That game, their rematch ain't going to be for a long time from now. So good on Seattle to get that win. And then we finish off the week with the New York Gangsters visiting the Phoenix Devils. The Gangsters have now lost 2 in a row and nothing looks right for them. Meanwhile, the Phoenix Devils, they've lost 3 in a row after their 3-0 start, but they're still being very competitive, so you gotta wonder what the hell's up with that. But hey, maybe at home against a struggling New York team, maybe they can finally get back to over 500. But the Gangsters would get the victory in a close game, 27-22, as they pretty much shut down Phoenix's offense, although they did get a lot of points off of it. And they got 4 sacks off it too, so good day for them on their defense. And man, another loss for Phoenix, as they now lost 4 in a row now. Good God, nothing's going right for them after that dominant 3-0 start, although they still up there in terms of point differential as one of the best in the league, so what the hell, they gotta stop losing all these close games. And with that, Week 7 is in the books as we look at the update stands, with the Seattle Tenyo now once again #1 in the division, the conference, thanks to that victory over the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions, who fell off the 2nd seed. And the Jacksonville Scouts and the New York Gangsters have the 2 other last remaining playoff spots, with my Charm being the only team looking in right now, as Jacksonville has a tiebreaker over both Baltimore and New York, and New York has a tiebreaker over Baltimore, that head-to-head victory in Week 1. Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, and Chicago have the tied with each other, with Phoenix having a tiebreaker over both of them. Then Pittsburgh has a tiebreaker over Chicago after their win today. Charlotte's at 2-5 all by themselves, and the Oakland Pillagers still remain the only undefeated team, last place in the conference. And the Scouts, not only do they have the best turnover differential in the league, but they now have the #1 offense in the league. And how about this? Although it's very shaky, the Seattle Tenyo now have the #1 defense in the league, which was Mayumi's main goal. So far, she's holed up in that regard, along with having a #1 seed in the playoffs. And then we finish off by looking at the Week 8 schedule, as, oh boy, we got a bunch of slew of big ones. First off, the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions visiting the Baltimore Charm. That's going to be big with playoff implications on the line. And then the Charlotte Bobcats visiting the Chicago Staleys. Then the Jacksonville Scouts visiting the lowly Oakland Pillagers. Then another big playoff matchup, the Seattle Tenyo visiting the New York Gangsters. That's going to be big. And then finally the Phoenix Devils visiting the Pittsburgh Power, with one of these teams, unless they tie, going to be at 500. So that's going to be very interesting to see that. And with that, Week 7 is in the books. I cannot wait for Week 8, so hopefully that'll be soon. So tune in for then.